Well, hello. I'm Sarah, the Real Simple Mama. It is a Sunday morning, and I am holding a wet criminal chicken who has broken out of her soaking tub that I was using to soak her for cleaning off her backside where she had some dried poop under her vent, and to do a non-surgical Bumblefoot treatment for her, like the spa treatment that I do. She broke the lid, so this isn't going according to plan. What I'm hoping to do is to show you right here on the table next to me the stuff that I personally use for Bumblefoot that's not super like severe, it's not invasive or anything like that, and get a little bit more information out of the way. I'm not a vet. I will say that randomly, like in the middle of sentences throughout the video. I'm not a vet. I've been a chicken tender for 8 years now, and I have a small backyard flock. This is Lacie. She's a senior hen. Because she is a bigger, heavier bird, she's always been prone to getting Bumblefoot. So what I plan to do is tell you a little bit about this, give you some more information, direct you to some of my other videos. And by the way, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not going to shove product placement or like bother you about buying my stuff. I'm showing you what works for me, and I don't like spending a lot of money, and I don't like telling you to either. So please don't feel this is like a product video or anything like that. This is just a remedy video. So what is Bumblefoot? Bumblefoot is an infection. And I'm assuming it's for, ducks and other birds also. But of course, I talk about it for chickens. And it's basically like a staph infection. So chickens are outside in the dirt, right, where they have their droppings and God knows what else is in the ground. And sometimes when they're digging around, or they're walking on rocks or mulch, or they hurt themselves a little bit because they hop down off a roost too much or whatever, just like we get little scratches and paper cuts and stuff like that. But since they're out in the dirt all the time, they can get bacteria in there, or something in there as far as germs. Usually, in my experience with the research that I've done, it's staph infection. And so I'm wearing gloves just in case I have a little cut on my hands. I don't end up necessarily getting staph. But it's not something that's like contagious, like one bird has it so the other birds are going to get it or whatever. And I will credit Dahlia from Chickenlandia, because I know she's just done like a clarification education video on her channel as well. So I don't gatekeep. She's teaching me, and I know that there's other chicken people, chicken tenders, who are doing the same thing. So I have a remedy that I do for Bumblefoot. And it's for cases that I feel I don't want to cut into their foot. Because here's the problem. With a chicken who lives outside in the dirt all day, right? If you cut into their foot, you've made an open wound, right? There's a flesh wound now. So now it's like, to me, if it's not a severe case, and again, I'm not a vet. This is just my experience and what I've chosen to do with my birds. But in my experience, it's like, if I'm trying to help clean up like, a wound or an infection, if there's a way for me to do it without cutting into their foot more, because now you really do have a fresh open wound that now you've got to keep clean. Now, certainly if you have a bathroom, you're going to have your chicken live in a bathroom for a few weeks or something like that, where you can control and make a more sterile conditions for that bird, then okay, fine. I don't have that luxury. So I have found a remedy to where we're essentially soaking and softening where the scab is, where the Bumblefoot is. And if I can, I'll show you in this shot. You can see hers. And then I put a drawing salve on it. I use Prid. I think there are some other ones that people have asked me about in the comments in the past, because I've had these videos and this content on the website for a while. There are other ones. A drawing salve is sort of like, this is gross, but if you think of having like a pimple or a boil or something, and it's like, I wish it would just come to a head so that we can get all of the junk out. A drawing salve, drawing like I'm drawing on paper, it draws out whatever that stuff is that's below the surface, that's below the skin. And then it just helps speed up the healing process. You're not wanting to, like squeeze it out, because again, that's an open flesh wound. What I'm trying to do is encourage all the junk to come to the surface, and then new flesh is growing underneath the scab. And you'll see on her, the scabs on chicken feet are usually black, dark, like brown to black. And then the scab will just slough off, right? Like for us, right? The scab starts to get itchy. Well, it gets itchy because your body's telling you, all right, the new skin that's underneath is ready to be revealed. Get the scab off. We don't need it anymore, right? If you pull the scab off before it's ready, what happens? It bleeds, right? And I'm sorry, I know I'm going into like teacher mode. So what I try to do is get the wound really, really clean. I'll use, and again, I pay full price for all my products. So this isn't like, and I use, like, I'm just showing you, this is the stuff that's worked for me. And this remedy, I've never had a Bumblefoot that I couldn't heal with this. Now it's going to take time, and it's going to take you doing this at least a few times a week. But what I do first is I soak, and I'll try to show you the tub at the end, but it's in pieces. And I have, I'll show you the pad that I have here. That's a pad down in the bottom so the chicken's not slipping around in a plastic bin. But you want them to soak, like you're doing a spa pedicure, you want them to soak in the Epsom salt water for at least 10 or 15 minutes. I do 20 or 25 when I can. We're also not going to do this every single day because the products that we put on her when we wrap her foot, it needs to stay on there for a day or two. So if you want to do lots of soaks, you can, but I really like to keep the product on there longer because obviously if the drawing salve is only on there for 6 hours and then you wash it off, it may not be able to do as much as if you can keep it on for 12 or 24 hours. So I soaked her. I don't measure the Epsom salts. I did probably, for 1.5 or 2 gallons of water, I did like a cup of Epsom salts, and that's just helping soften the rough skin, right? Think about like softening rough, like heels, like the skin on the bottom of your foot. Then I let her cool and dry, and again, she tried to break out and she got herself all wet, so I'm just letting her stay here and not get chilled. This product, and it may show up backwards for y'all, it's called Vetericin. It's sort of like a hydrogen peroxide, but hydrogen peroxide is way too strong for chickens. It'll give them like a chemical burn on their skin. So this is the same idea. Like I'm cleaning a wound, I'm getting all the germs and like crap off of there. I'm just killing all of that so that I can make it as sterile as possible. Again, I'm wearing gloves just as an extra precaution for me. Let the Vetericin sit on there for a minute, pat it dry. So now in theory, she's got a clean, dry foot. Then what I would do, and again, I'm going to try to do a time lapse, but we'll see if that ends up happening. Then what I'll do, this is my Prid. And this is like, I think on Amazon, it's less than $6. And it's just this little thing. But I mean, how much are you using when you put it on one tiny little spot on a chicken? So this is probably, I think this is the only one I've ever had to buy. So then I put Prid on, and it's sticky and thick and nasty and gross like molasses. And so I just get a big swipe and I put it on and around the bumblefoot. I'm not pushing hard, but I am rubbing it in because I want it to get all on and all around that scab. And then for wrapping the foot and keeping it on, I put, this is way too big and way too much, but I just put a little square of gauze and I fold it and I stick it where the Prid is. And that's just a little extra protection. And then I wrap with, wait for it, vet wrap or self-adhesive gauze. This is the stuff that you can rip off and you kind of like squeeze it on itself and it sticks to itself. When you're wrapping it, you don't want it to be wrapped too tightly because we don't want to be cutting off circulation to toes. And the chickens will kind of walk kind of weird for a minute, like, oh God, what is this on my foot? If it comes off, it comes off. You did the best you could, you got the product on their foot. But hopefully if you wrap it well, and you'll get better with practice, but if you wrap it well, then it'll stay on for at least 12 hours overnight, etc., etc. And then when it falls off, then you can try to soak again. In my opinion, the two most important things that you're doing at this point is doing the long soak, because that's softening, you know, the flesh on the bottom of their feet, of course, is hard. It's tough because they're walking around in rocks and gravel and dirt, right? So soak for a long time. Warm water, nothing that would like change the color of your skin. We don't need them overheating in the bath. And they're not gonna like it, they're gonna freak out. So you need a plan to hold them. If you're only soaking them for Bumblefoot, you only need enough water to get the bottom of their foot wet. So like maybe an inch of water, and you can gently hold them. You can wrap them in a towel. Again, I'll show you up here. This is the bathtub that I made. She's just a really big chicken and she panicked and she started to break out of it while we were over here fixing the chicken coop door. So you do need to supervise them, okay? And then I think the Prid is really important, or whatever you find that's a drawing salve that's safe for chickens. Don't use anything like hydrogen peroxide, it's too strong unless you really dilute it. And don't use any kind of like ointment or anything that has a pain relief additive in it. For example, Neosporin, or like their off-brand, like HEB brand, Walgreens brand. They make a Neosporin, which is like an, what do they call it? Like an injury cream, you know, like an ointment. But if it has the pain relief, don't give that to your chickens. The chemical that does the pain relief is deadly to them. So she's an older girl and a bigger girl, so she is prone to getting stuff like this more often. Chickens also, I'm just trying to throw out all the information I can think of. If your roost bars are really far apart, chickens jumping up and down, they can hurt themselves doing stuff like that too. So I'm gonna see if I can pick her up. And then what I'll do is I'll switch to time lapse while I do the rest of this remedy, and you can just kind of see like a quick and dirty like version of me using all that stuff. And it's not going to be perfect. There's not like one beautiful technique. I know, sweetie, I know, it's okay, fine. She's had a really rough morning, it's all right. There's not like one, you know, this is the way to wrap feet or whatever. You kind of just got to get in there and get wet and get messy and figure it out. Lots of towels. And I trimmed her little feathers and I've cleaned her booty, so she's nice and clean too. But I'm gonna see if I can stand her up and show you. It's this foot that I'm holding right here. And she'll have a bumblefoot and I'll clear it up, and then like within a year she will get another one on another foot. I've never had a chicken who has as much problem with bumblefoot as she does. So let's see if I can show you. See that black scab, and it's just in like a goofy spot. I'm hoping that you're getting an okay focus. So the black is the scab. It's okay, honey, let's sit down. The black is the scab. But chickens can also get bumblefoot on their toes. That's trickier because there's not as much like skin or like fat right there to where like when it swells, it's not as big of a deal. So obviously she's a little uncomfortable. This isn't anything that's gonna be like fatal right now or whatever, but I do wanna get it taken care of because staph infection can eventually get into the blood and things like that. If you're worried, don't cut into the foot and don't do my remedy. But if you're like, my chicken is not wanting to get up or their foot is so swollen they can't walk or whatever, get a vet, find a vet. And remember, I'm not a vet, so don't take this as medical advice. Like, don't come sue me because you didn't do the right thing and I don't know, your chicken grew an extra foot or something like that. So what I'm gonna do now is switch over to time lapse, and I'm going to do this full remedy, and then hopefully I can come back and show you at the end what it looks like. But then I will let this sit, like I said, hopefully it'll stay on for 2 days, and then I just come out and I repeat this every 2 days, wipe off the old prid and get going, and eventually you'll see the scab either start to fall off little by little, right, as the flesh is healing underneath, it just comes off because it's not needed anymore, or you'll see the scab. What's usually happened for my birds is the scab will shrink because there's pieces sloughing off that I don't see. And then eventually you'll end up with nice, healthy flesh. So let's see. All right, now nobody laugh at my poor little wet chicken. Because again, I had to soak her so that I could clean her backside. She had some dried poop that was up in the quill of the feather and I didn't want to cut it all off. So I had to clean her. So we got like a wet butt going on. And then of course she's gonna be walking funny because she's not used to having anything. Let me move this door. Because she's not used to having anything. And I didn't do an amazing, perfect job. Of course, you can see in the video I tried to show you, you should try to wrap up the chicken in a towel first. You can even cover their face if you want, as long as, of course, they can still breathe. But if you wrap them up with a towel around their wings really closely, I usually tuck it in up in the front around their chest. Then you've kind of made like, you know, like a little baby wearing situation or like a little straight jacket, because it's mostly going to be their wings where they're trying to push off away from you and get away. The other thing is, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, but not too much because I care about her dignity. The other thing is that yes, I wear gloves, but I hate when I can't really feel what I'm doing with the gloves, so I did take it off. Of course, you can certainly wear gloves if you want to. That's more of a do as I say, not as I do. But we'll see how long that stays on. I did do a gentle squeeze of that wrap, and I did end it. I'm trying to show you, but I didn't want to hold her anymore. I did end it around the ankle, like up on the ankle. And again, it needs to be pretty firm, but we don't want to be cutting off circulation of those little toes. Okay, and then of course, different chickens, if you're doing this on a rooster and they've got like a spur or something like that, you need to just kind of play around with like, okay, how would I do this? A few more random tips here at the end if you're still watching. On the vet wrap, you can do a neutral color, like a chicken skin color, like a gray or, you know, like a khaki color. You can. The only problem for me is I wanted to be able to look at a glance, like from a distance, and see is it still on them or not. And you can't, you know, you can't tell from a distance if it just blends in with their skin. But do not use red and do not use hot pink. Chickens, mostly roosters, but some hens also, they will see red, kind of like, you know, those old school Looney Tunes cartoons with the bull, and a bull sees something red and he gets really aggressive and he attacks it. Chickens, roosters and hens, I guess, will do that. You've probably seen it if you've ever had a chicken who has been injured and everybody just keeps picking at that wound and coming at them and coming at them and coming at them. So don't use red or pink or a color that they would mistake for a wound, because then you're going to have the other chickens pecking at it. So, right, like put them in a soak that's nice warm water with a ton of Epsom salts that will get softening, and let the chicken just chill. Hold them safely in there. Don't let them panic. You know, try not to get a bath yourself. and then go through the remedy again, and then just see how long it lasts. This remedy may take a little bit longer because we're not doing anything invasive. I'm not cutting into her foot. But again, I mean, look at where they have to live. And I just raked these rocks, and of course they've been dug up and dug around again. So just keep that in mind. Obviously she's stressed, so she's going to be shedding some feathers right now. But I hope that that kind of helped you see a little bit more of this Bumblefoot treatment, because I haven't had to do one in a while. But I'm here. I'm just not a vet, but I'm here. My email address is down in the video description, or of course we can keep the conversation going in the comments. So I hope that helped. Thanks, guys.